Hey, are you in the market to buy a home and curious about community down payment assistance programs? In this video, I'm with Peter Lindquist, a great mortgage broker in the Twin Cities. He's going to help us uncover some of the things we need to know about down payment assistance when it's coming from a community. My name's Travis Anderson. I'm a local realtor here in Minnesota. I help both buyers and sellers. Let's get right into the video. Hey, Peter, we hear of these other programs like from the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency and some of these kind of larger down payment assistance programs. But what about those more localized community programs? Can you tell us a little more about those?
Community-based programs are great when they are available, but there's some important things that you need to know about them. So community-based programs are generally defined by a certain market area. So, for example, the city of Woodbury has a great program that is defined by city limits of Woodbury. Similarly with Shoreview, for example, and sometimes there's county-based programs. Southern Minnesota has a program that is defined by some counties in southern Minnesota. So those kind of programs can exist. People sometimes make the mistake thinking, well, if there's one in that city, they're in all cities, and that's just not true. They also make the mistake of thinking that, well, if Woodbury has a program, it's always there, and that's not true. So community-based programs come and go, and when they are there, it's important that you jump on them. If you qualify for them, you need to take advantage of them as quickly as possible because that money is limited. By that, I mean, if we deal with the state of Minnesota, MHFA, those kind of down payment assistance programs are continuously funded. They're always there. But community-based programs have limitations and they rarely make it a full 12 months. They are sometimes there for a matter of a few weeks and sometimes, a little bit longer. But those programs, you've got to jump on them when they are available.
Yeah, that makes sense. We sometimes get marketed to as realtors from some of these communities, Peter. And for example, Woodbury would be a really good one. And they'll send out this email that says, we've just been funded and we can help 30 families. And the email will it's like we can do 30 people. And so, yeah, and I assume once you get to 31, then that 31st person does not get that funding, right?
Yeah. And I had a buyer a couple of years ago who was very familiar with that. And we knew that by talking to Woodbury, that funding would be coming soon. So he was just ready. And as soon as they said go, he went out and bought a house like within 3 days after that. And we got the funding. And within, I say, 3 months after he closed, it was gone again. So you can strategize around it in order to be ready when they are there. And so to give you an idea, some of these are a $10,000 loan or an $8,000 grant. Most of them are loans, and most of them are 0% interest or very low interest. Some of them are, even really big. Edina is up to 60,000. So depending on the area, there can be really big down payment assistance, which can have a major impact on not only the monthly payment, but how much you qualify for and whether or not you have to pay mortgage insurance, because with a big enough down payment assistance, it can remove that need for mortgage insurance on a conventional loan.
Yeah, very cool. Now, Peter, can you stack this? Could I get MHFA down payment assistance and the city of Shoreview down payment assistance, for example?
In almost all programs, they are stackable so that they can be combined with the state of Minnesota. There are occasionally I'll run into a program that doesn't allow it, but most programs that allows it. So if you qualify for a $14,000 deferred payment loan from MHFA and also a $30,000 down payment assistance loan, that's $44,000 altogether. So that can end up having a major impact on monthly payment. The thing for you to understand is that qualifications for these programs is different from MHFA. So whenever we deal with down payment assistance, we are dealing with at least two different sets of guidelines. There's the guidelines for the first mortgage, so you have to qualify for the big loan. Then you have to qualify for the down payment assistance loan, which has its own guidelines. And if it's community based, those guidelines can get really wild. And so knowing and understanding what those guidelines are can be a real trick from a mortgage lender perspective, because then we have to balance out your qualifications for all three programs to make sure that you're going to qualify for all of those. So it gets to be a bit complicated, and sometimes buyers will read a blurb online and say, well, I qualify for that program. But I want to let you know it's a lot deeper than that, and it's something that we have to. If I'm qualifying somebody, it can take hours after my initial consultation to see if they end up qualifying for all the programs we're trying to work out for them.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So with community programs, there's some really good benefits. Obviously, you mentioned that we can get a lower payment. We can get some grant money sometimes. We can get some very low interest loans sometimes. They can help with the cost of closing, removing mortgage insurance. So you've mentioned some of these positive things. And then you mentioned some, maybe negative things, like the money might not be available. Obviously, there's only so much funding that we can have from a small community. You also mentioned some of the financing rules in which you could qualify might vary from community to community. Is there anything else that we should let the consumer know here today, Peter?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is that the programs, if we involve a community-based program, almost always we need an extra couple of weeks in the loan process. So if you're in a competitive offer situation and you need to close within 30 days, that can be a real challenge to try to do with a community-based program. The reason is with MHFA, those programs are underwritten by our mortgage underwriters. Okay, so I send in your application to our mortgage underwriters. One person is reviewing both of those applications at the same time. But with a community-based program, in almost all cases, we have to go through that part where our underwriters review it, and then we have to send that completed approval to the community and for them to underwrite the file also. So it adds an extra layer. And I love community-based programs, but it's a good thing for you to understand it's not what they do all day long. And so the process is just generally slower to work with them. And I encourage a lot of patience to everybody along the way. So closing, if a standard transaction closes in 30 days, I normally encourage buyers to plan on 6 weeks, so 45 days from the point of application for those to close. That's one thing to know. And then the last thing I'll note is that it can be a challenge in a multiple offer situation, especially because of that length of time to close. If we're telling the seller, hey, the buyer is getting 3 loans in order to buy the house, and we need 6 weeks, and there's a 20% down conventional offer that can close in 30 days, it just makes it much more difficult to get your offer accepted that way. So we have to balance all of those things out. And when I'm dealing with that buyer, I'm encouraging them to look for homes that are not likely going to be in multiple offer situations, or maybe have been on the market for a little while, so that the buyer isn't pressed up against competition to try to get their offer accepted.
Yeah, sounds good. And you and I did a video about offers and competing offers maybe a couple of weeks ago. We could probably link that in our description here. That can touch a little bit more on what you're talking about here with the hurdles associated with different types of financing.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Travis, thanks a bunch for talking to me today about community-based programs. I get really passionate about it and love to talk about them. It's a good idea that we balance it out so we understand everything about it, the good parts and the bad parts. But thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. And thank you to the viewer for taking the time to listen to us today.